In Uganda, poultry farming has been one of the major activities practiced on a commercial level for a very long time. However, many poultry projects have not lived up to their year due to a number of factors, largely stemming from the management of the flock. This trend is now changing, nonetheless, thanks to improved poultry farming techniques. Coming up on Seeds of Gold.
Layer farming is good because given the market conditions of feeds, that today the feeds are up, tomorrow they lower. With layer birds, the eggs also keep fluctuating. But you're sure today the prices are down, but tomorrow they are going to be up.
Tonight, we meet David from Naluvule in Wakiso district. He is 32 years old and professionally a procurement officer. However, he has been enticed into poultry farming and has been doing it for about 5 years with no much regrets.
We started farming in 2015, which is for close to 5 years. As you can see, we are majoring in layer birds, and I would say it is a good project. We've had a number of challenges. Some of them have been solved, others we are solving them. Apparently we have 2,403 birds, which are in two phases. We have the growers that are just starting to lay, and then we have a set that has taken 2 years of laying.
If you have money and you are looking for an investment avenue, then layers could be a good option. However, you must be ready to inject a lot more since they require huge startup capital. But why choose to invest in layers? 1. On average, 500 birds will give you 14 trays per day for a period of 40 weeks. Well looked after layers will have a production capacity of 85%, each bird laying 300 to 320 eggs throughout the laying cycle.
Initially, we started with the broilers, and for about 1 year, we were not able to make any profit because of the market. You would rear birds, and the total cost would come to 8,000. Then someone comes and is giving you 7,000 per bird. So over time, we didn't realize any profit. And that is why we had to shift to the layer birds. Layer farming is good because given the market conditions of feeds, that today the feeds are up, tomorrow they lower. With layer birds, the eggs also keep fluctuating. But you're sure today the prices are down, but tomorrow they are going to be up. So that gives you hope that today their prices are down, tomorrow they are going to go back up. So there is a cushion in one way or another.
Before starting up a layers project, these are some of the factors you need to consider for commercial profit. The breeder type. This should be one that is disease resistant and able to lay eggs by required rate. A well-ventilated and spacious structure must be built. The height of the house should be 9 to 10 feet. You should have identified a good feeder supplier and good feeding and watering structure. You must acquire knowledge on poultry diseases and how to prevent and treat them.
I would advise farmers, before you venture into poultry farming, 1, you have to look at the structure that you're going to put up for the birds. But how does that come about? Even before that, you're supposed to do some tours. Find out, this field I'm trying to venture, what are others who are there facing? Though some of the challenges you'll face may not be necessarily what others are facing or have faced. It may be different. But what normally happens, you have to find out. Those in poultry farming, what are they doing? How are they managing? So after doing those field tours, you now come back and say, now I want to venture. Number 1, you must put up a good structure. The structure must be strong, must be able to provide security to the birds, but also it must provide enough aeration for the birds. So the ventilation, as you can see, there has to be a free flow of air, because once these birds suffocate, then also comes issues of hygiene and diseases. So that is why there has to be a free flow of air. Then also it must be of the average size, depending on the number of birds you want to put up. So those are some of the recommendations in terms of the structure. Number two, you have to look at the genetics of the birds you want to rear. Where do they come from? What is the parent farm? What is the breed? So after that, you then have to find out, where am I going to get the feeds? Then you also have to establish your market. I'm going to rear the birds, but where am I going to sell the eggs? Because you'll get the eggs and have no market. Then you now look at the brooding part of it. Once I bring these birds from the breeder I have chosen, how am I going to manage them? It is normally a tricky part, but normally I would advise farmers to visit, especially other farmers who are brooding, because you'll see practically what happens. Because brooding is the most critical stage of a bird, because it is the stage at which all the organs of the bird develop. Once you fail there, then you'll have 6 months of rearing and there are no eggs. Why? Because the brooder was poorly managed. Once I'm out of the brooder, there is that space where these birds are put before I then bring them to the cages. So that space also must be big enough to accommodate these birds, because once they grow and it is small, there are issues of feeding, because you'll have very few eating places with too many birds. So they end up fighting for food, fighting for water, so others will not grow well. So you must provide enough space for them to grow up. 3, there are issues of vaccination. You must have a vaccination program, which is normally got from the breeder, the person where you get these chicks, or a veterinary person. So you vaccinate these chicken right from the time they are day 1, weekly, until they are, of course, the entire lifetime, because still, even these ones, we vaccinate them at this age. The lips, normally, there are issues of cannibalism. They peck each other. So to prevent that, we normally cut off the beaks. Also, the other thing is about the eggs. They normally bite the eggs if the beaks are not trimmed. Lighting is important, but like usually for the layer birds, they don't feed at night. Yeah, so when day goes, they also go to sleep. So the lighting then is normally for the growing session. But for the layers, once it is night, they go to sleep.
In raising layers, feeding the birds is as crucial as giving them water. The birds need feeds full of all nutrients required for egg development and should be administered at the necessary intervals of morning, mid-morning and late afternoon, since they go to sleep in the early evening. Among the important feeds for layer birds are maize bran, fish, mukene, sunflower, shells, salt, broken maize and soya. It is also advisable that as a farmer, you should be able to mix these feeds by yourself. This will minimize on feeding expenses and ensure the quality of the feeds.
Initially, we had a challenge of feeding. So we used to have these feeds mixed elsewhere. So the supplier mixes them and he brings already mixed feeds. So over time we realized they were not performing well. So we had to go back to the drawing board and ensure that we mix these feeds ourselves. And we realized we had lost a lot of money because we were not mixing ourselves. So the moment we started mixing the feeds ourselves, the performance improved drastically. And up to today, you can be sure that the performance is very good, because over 2 years of laying, if a bird still performs at 80%,
Layers feed on chick and duck mash for the first 2 months, and within this period, each bird will consume at least 2 kilograms. From 2 to 5 months, they feed on growers mash, and within this period, a bird will consume at least 6 kilograms from production. When they start laying, at 20 weeks onwards, they are fed on layers mash. Once production falls below 60% egg production, a farmer is advised to dispose them off. On average, 500 birds will give you 14 trays per day for a period of 40 weeks, and a well-looked after stock will have a production capacity of 80%, each bird laying 300 to 320 eggs throughout the laying cycle.
Ideally, they are supposed to lay once a day each, but you find that because of issues here and there, one may skip and it lays tomorrow. So in 2 days, it may lay once. So it keeps rotating across the flock. Sometimes age of the birds, like I've told you, I have those that have laid for 2 years, so some of them skip. Yeah, feeding affects them in a way that, of course, you feed them daily, but one may not lay today and it lays tomorrow. But like I've said, because of my major issue is about age, that a bird that has laid for 2 years, you would expect that skip. Today it may not lay and it lays again tomorrow. But what matters is the total count of the eggs. So as long as the total percentage is still okay. Right now I'm at 85%. But that is the mature flock that has laid for over 2 years.
More and more advanced poultry farmers have adopted the battery caging system. Sembajwe has done the same at this farm. Seated on a 100 by 100 acre piece of land, the caging system seems handy for such a farmer in an urban setting. In the cage, the birds are kept 2 to 3 per cage, arranged in single, double or triple rows. This kind of system has been adopted due to its advantages, which include a greater number of birds is reared per unit of area, facilitates correct record keeping, helps in identifying poor producers and prompt culling, controls vices of poultry, e.g. cannibalism and egg eating, easy control of parasitic diseases like coccidiosis and worm infestation, helps to control feed wastage, egg production is higher than for those kept in deep litter system, and improved feed efficiency and egg weight.
So one of the issues we've solved here is about the drinking system. Previously, we've had the usual drinkers that are on the market. So over time, we've discovered these feeders have issues. One, the water gets dirty, and sometimes the person looking after them is away. And because you're on the job, you find that these birds keep getting sick in and out. So we developed a drinking system for these birds that is friendly and automated, that this bird has clean water throughout its breeding season. So that is how we've been able to solve the brooder issue, because a bird's life is 90% water. So this is the nipple drinker. So the birds drink from this. And this is their feeding tray. So this is the tank for water. So all these nipples pick their water from this tank. It is here where we do the mixing of vitamins, antibiotics. We do it in this smaller tank. This small tank picks water from the reservoir tank.
This system, though more efficient and profitable, has also recorded some disadvantages. Incidence of leg problem cage layer fatigue, fatty liver syndrome, flies and obnoxious gases in the house will be on the increase. In terms of costing, this system does not come cheap. It could cost you between 1.2 to 1.6 million shillings. It requires frequent maintenance to avoid blockage.
Issues of a system being expensive or not is about me. I interpret it in terms of what do you benefit, because initially I used to have when these birds were down, I would have the death rates were high, but when I started the cage system, everything improved. As you can see, I'm able to monitor and know each cage how many birds have laid, so you're able to know that if they're not laying, then there is a problem. Number two, issues of normally there are issues of theft. You have workers who would pick from the main house and sell to the neighbors, but here I'm able to know that one bird is not there because I know there are three. So if I find one missing, either it has died or someone has taken it away. So you're able to know. Yeah. Now in terms of cost, each cage, apparently on the market it is 1.5. Each cage of around 120 birds. It is around 1.5. But what we are doing now, we are trying to import them ourselves. And the ones we are importing take 160 birds. And we are also working on trying to avail them to other farmers at the same price that is currently on the market. But of course, before we sell them, we first check them through the basics. For instance, how do you manage the drinking system? Because frequently you have to disinfect it, because you know always after a period they block, so you have to continuously unblock them. Number two, we teach them the basics of how to operate the nipples, because very often we find that you may discover a nipple is leaking continuously.
Sembajwe has discovered a way in which he can maximize his profits from poultry farming. Layers do not just stop at giving him eggs. The bird dung too is very essential in producing other income-generating products such as briskets, biogas, and simply manure for plants. To make briskets out of dung, you need sawdust, charcoal dust, filter, clay, water, and finally, the bird dung itself, as Sembajwe explains.
Now, what we are going to do is the first phase of the briquette making. So in the first phase, we add the manure with the sawdust. The sawdust does two things. One, it reduces the smell of the poultry dung. Because when if I put that under the sun, the flies will destabilize the homes. It also works as an accelerant to burning. So we mix a bucket to a bucket. So because we are going to bind these two together, there is what we call a binder. It helps to keep the mold together. Like you see these ones, for you to be able to get that ball together, that even if it dries, it remains compact, we add what we call a binder. A binder can be clay soil, it can be starch, it can be any other thing as long as it binds together.
After mixing all these together, the ball-like briquettes are then left to sun to dry for about 48 hours. They are then smoked together with other burning materials such as pepper to form a black dust.
So these are dry and we're ready for carbonizing. After 4 hours, when we discover everything is burnt, we then cover the top to ensure that there is no oxygen escaping into the drum.
This is later mixed with charcoal dust and clay, which helps to stick together and then sun-dried again before use. Advantages of briquettes over charcoal are: burning capacity is twice longer than charcoal, produce no smoke when filtered, will come at cheaper cost, exhumes no fumes in the environment. Alternatively, if you can't afford to construct a biogas plant in your home, then you can say bye-bye to the dangerous fumes from charcoal and resort to using biogas from organic waste.
This is our biogas plant, and this is what we call the mixing area. This is where we mix the dung and the water. We put our dung and then pour our water. So we have to mix it until it makes a porridge-like mixture. And now, once it is ready, we release it to the system. So we pull out this and it will move down to the digester. This is our digester. It's rated as 9 cubic, meaning it is 9,000 liters. So this is our most important part of the biodigester. So here is where the digestion takes place. So once I release my mixture from there, it is channeled down to the bottom of this digester. And what is here also is displaced to the last section of the digester. So it means that the last area will have a product that no longer has any gas in it. What I have there is ready to be given to the animals. It is ready for fertilizing. So here I'm lighting my biogas. And as you can see, here it is burning next to maximum, but we can regulate it according to what you're doing. Meaning if I'm preparing a normal meal or boiling water, I can put it to maximum. Biogas is more friendly. One of the disadvantages or issues people have with the usual gas is its ability to burn houses if someone is not careful with it. But biogas, the burning component is what we call methane. One of the properties of methane is that it dissolves faster with air. So that means if this gas is to burn or to create havoc, before it does so, it has already dissolved. Because the usual gas is called LPG, liquid petroleum gas. So its major component, which is petroleum, can burn a house because it dissolves long, it takes long to dissolve in air.
Did you also know that the bird dung can be converted into nutritious animal and bird feed? Sembajwe has discovered this secret and is working on producing these feeds to later be put on the market.
Here we are using the stacking method. In stacking, we heap the manure like you're seeing here and leave it here for about 3 to 4 months. So what goes on here is that there is a process, you know, like when you get chicken dung and keep it somewhere, you realize it creates heat within itself. So what happens here, when you keep them here, all the bacteria and pathogens that exist in this dung will be killed by the heat that is accumulated in here. So after the 4 months, this poultry manure will be ready to be fed to cattle, piggery, and chicken as well.
And what about the broken eggs from the farm? Sembajwe has been creative enough. He is selling these to his wife, who runs a bakery business from their home. At his farm, nothing is seen as waste. After this episode, I surely believe that the gold is not only in the mines, but also on the farm. All you need is the will and creative mind to go for it.